you just can't do if you need to have like 5 layers of approval and legal approval on every post you put out. Because you have to be able to adapt and react quickly and have a personality and actually have a point of view. And if you don't, you're just another brand with a social account pushing your products.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Eric Gray again for another episode of Radical Content. And I'm joined by a guy that gets to have a lot of fun. He's the Chief Brand Officer for Dude Perfect. If you don't know who Dude Perfect is, well, then just turn off this YouTube video and stop listening and go find it, because they've been everywhere. And they started as trick shots, but now they've just turned into a giant media conglomerate. My kids are giant fans, Chad, and so we got a lot to get to, but I'm just super stoked to have you here today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So to say I'm a big fan would be, is an understatement. So before we started recording, I showed you some footage of me at headquarters. We went to visit the Dude Perfect headquarters. We saw Corey out one time, kind of out and about. I didn't tell you this, but we went to the Savannah show last year.
Oh, nice.
And then this is another weird one that I forgot to tell you. So I went to the University of North Texas in 2004, and I started a show called The Green Guys. And I think that
does this have a Sparky connection somehow?
Yes. So I think Sparky was a green guy like 10, 12 years later.
That would surprise me.
And we don't know. I don't know Sparky. I obviously kind of saw him on the show, but Sparky's another one of the guys that kind of comes in. He's not, I don't know if he's official dude, but I'll let you guys decide that.
We kind of say that he's our mascot. We have Panda as our mascot. Technically, he's our like real life mascot.
Yeah, alternate dude, real life mascot. I like it. I'm sure he'll take whatever he can get. But yeah, so there's a lot of like connections, and just a born and bred Dallas, Texas guy and Texas guy, and so love what Dude Perfect is doing, love what they stand for. And today we're going to talk a little about marketing, a lot about content, a lot about storytelling, and really a lot about fan building. And so, but before we get into that, I'd love to kind of hear a little about your story. So you kind of have a similar start in some ways, that you're kind of marketing areas kind of birthed through this idea of social and content and storytelling. I heard a story, so I'm going to ask you to tell it a little bit quickly, maybe here to get us started, about how you got into marketing had to do with an ice cream stand or what was that about? I was doing a little research and I heard this story, and I was like, well, we got to hear the beginning story.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we grew up in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, in a little town called Springdale, which is right next to Fayetteville, where the university is. And so, I went to University of Arkansas, and my senior year, I was taking, full-time classes, 15 hours, and working 2 jobs. One of them was at one of those, like, it was kind of around the time that those self-serve frozen yogurt shops were kind of booming. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still around, but I don't know if you remember, like, the wave of that sensation.
Oh yeah, Froyo.
Yeah, 2011, 2012, where you go in, you do all your own toppings, everything, you pay by the ounce. And so, I had just kind of a part-time job there, making ends meet in college. And the guy who owned the shop was from Tulsa, so he wasn't really there on the day-to-day. And the manager of the place quit, or he let him go or something. He was like, "Hey, do you want to, be the manager of this place for me?"
How old are you at this point?
Gosh, I was like probably 21 or so. Year college, and it was right on like the main street called Dixon Street in Fayetteville, and they had these giant windows that faced the street. It was like right on the side of the street, and so it was fun. We stayed open till like 1 a.m. and so I'm in there working and seeing all my friends walk down to Dixon Street for the night and going having fun, and I'm just like waving at them. But no, it was interesting because I was like, yeah, I mean, I never have managed a store before. I'm sure I can figure it out. Thank you for having that trust in me. And so, I took that on, and that was a pretty fun experience. And one of the things that I learned throughout all of that was, that was kind of around the time when, social media, especially like for businesses, Facebook fan pages were like the huge thing back then. And, I was interested in social, and, it was really kind of becoming, more and more popular around that time. And so I started our like Facebook pages, for our frozen yogurt shop there on campus, and was, kind of had full control over it. I was like trying different things, from running, campaigns for the Greek life crowd and engaging some of the other, students on campus and different clubs and stuff. So trying like these different promotions and campaigns to try to get students, to come back and be repeat customers. And it was just kind of like one small part of the job, but I found myself really, being intrigued by that and like what's working and what's not, and what's actually bringing people back into the store. And it was a really interesting thing to me, because I was like, at that time, everything was so new. And so I was like, this is a super interesting space. I really like this. I think I'm pretty good at it. Obviously it was in its infancy back then, but something I just found super interesting. And so, I got to thinking, I graduated college in 2011 from Arkansas, and had got a job at a digital content agency right out of college in Bentonville, and was doing, a lot of social content for like brands that were partners of ours. So, Walmart, Sam's Club, PF Chang's, some big brands that were clients of the agency. And I was, essentially writing out content for them and creating content for them to publish on all of their channels. And while I really liked that part of it, what I didn't love was like, I would create 2 weeks worth of content in an Excel spreadsheet, send it over to get approvals. It would go through 7 million layers and get back to me. And they're like, no, we can't say this, can't do this. And it just, by the end of it, it's like, there was no personality. There was no, like, it was just the most bland, boring stuff, because that, generally speaking, a lot of companies weren't really willing to take risks or have an identity on social. And so kind of got to thinking, this is what I like. I don't know that an agency life is right for me because of that, but I think I could do a good job having some ownership in creating a social identity and for a big brand. And I've been a golfer my whole life. And so I was like, gosh, if I could combine that with something I'm passionate about in life, like golf, that would be a home run for me. And so just through kind of Twitter and mainly Twitter back then, had connected with some people in the golf industry just as a golf fan, right? Like finding people who worked at different companies and talking about golf with them, interacting with them here and there. And through that, I was like, I need to like reach out to one of these people and just shoot my shot, send them my resume, tell them what I want to do, and just say, hey, if you ever hear of anything that is open in the golf world in this sort of a space, I would love to be considered. I know I'm just a random kid from Arkansas who's direct messaging you, but
dude, but we've all had these moments. And so I love that you did it. So I love that.
And I specifically remember that moment. I sent an email to this girl named Ashley Mayo, who ran Golf Digest social media at the time, and sent her my resume. Was just like, hey, let me know if you hear of anything. Would really appreciate it. And she called me basically immediately and was like, hey, I actually got a call from this guy, a friend of mine at Callaway yesterday, and they're looking to hire their first in-house social media person. They haven't been able to find the right fit. So he called me to ask if I knew of anyone to give a recommendation for. And she was like, I said no, but if you want me to, I'll give you a recommendation. I was like, that'd be great. And so got a phone interview and flew out for an interview and got the job. And he was like, can you be here in 2 weeks? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can. I mean, I just had proposed to my wife, so we got to change some wedding plans there probably, but timing was right. My wife was getting her master's in childhood education, so she had one more year left. So while I was working at the digital agency, she was finishing up her last year, and this happened to be right around the time whenever she was going to be done. And everything luckily just kind of made sense at that point. But really had never considered the fact that I would really move away from Arkansas and do anything. It was just kind of like something where I thought, let's try and see what's out there. I never really thought that it would be a possibility that I would move to California as a 22-year-old kid. But I think, as part of that process, that was around the time when a lot of these big brands were bringing that social media position in-house versus doing what I was doing, right? Your agency of record creates all your social content. That's kind of how it worked back then. But I think a lot of these brands were realizing, hey, to do this the right way, you have to have someone who's in the culture, who's in the office, who understands your business, and especially in the golf space, who can talk to golfers, because it's a very passionate, group of people who are fans of the game, and you have to know how to speak their language. You need someone who understands that world. You can't, outsource your social content and your brand voice to an agency. And who knows who it is over there that's writing your content. They need to be able to speak to golfers. If they're not a golfer, everything's going to sound completely inauthentic. And so there was this kind of shift happening at that point. And what I learned later, and my approach to that job, to getting that job, was I thought, they're probably waiting for someone to come in and tell them what they need in this.
100%. Yeah.
Versus, because obviously this was the first hire for Callaway, and so for social media at Callaway. And so I'm like, if they're having trouble finding someone, it probably means they don't know what they're looking for, and they're waiting for someone kind of to tell them what to do. And so as part of that interview process, and in between my phone interview and my in-person interview, the guy who hired me, Tim Buckman, still a very good friend of mine. I was sending him emails of like, here's my thoughts, here's my ideas, here's what I would do on day one if I was hired. Here's what I think Callaway's doing right, and here's what I think they can do better as it currently stands. Here's what I think the identity should be. All of this stuff. I was just spewing all my ideas at him, and he ended up telling
for free.
Yeah, for free. Yeah, exactly. But that was the strategy that I took, right? And it ended up being the right one, because I was just with Tim. He now heads up PR for Prime Video for Thursday Night Football, and coincidentally, it was full circle, because I worked with him again for our Thursday Night Football deal. But he was like, that was what made the difference. He was like, we were looking for someone to tell us what we needed, because we didn't know.
I love that story, and I love that. There's so many different angles for people that have kind of either, had a career in social. They all have a different kind of start story. And one thing that I always tell people is, if you want to be in social, do it around something you're passionate about, right? Like, don't go work for a brand that you didn't love. Yep. When I was at EA Sports, I loved sports. I was a former radio producer in San Antonio. We didn't talk about that, but so sports was kind of my background. I wasn't a big gamer, but I loved sports. And when I went to Universal Parks and Resorts, I didn't ride a lot of rides, but I love travel. I love the idea of bringing families together. And so, when you're in social and digital and content, you got to kind of be passionate about the stories that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to do those things. I mean, I was kind of taking notes. It's hard to understand what the personality should be, because you don't know what the audience is. But when you know the audience, because you are the audience, then all of a sudden it's really easy to craft a personality. It's also
exactly right.
Easy to craft a point of view, right? Like, you came in and you're like, I've got a point of view about what this can be, because you're like, I'm one of these people, that you're trying to talk to and trying to connect with.
Yeah, it was basically I love that. How would I talk to myself?
Right.
As a golf fan, what would I think was cool, or what would attract me to following an equipment company on social media? And that's the lens that I viewed everything through, especially in the early days, because it was relatively new to me too. It was relatively new in general at that time. My thought philosophy was, what would make me think that Callaway was a cool brand if I was just still an average, golf fan consumer online? So you're totally right.
So the world has changed a lot since then, but we're still in a similar place, which is a lot of times social media is kind of compartmentalized. And for some it's like invested in, but for some it almost still seems like it's, and I say social, I really mean a broader kind of engagement marketing and audience building marketing, right? This idea, and a lot of brands have shifted to performance. I think you're a really interesting person to answer this, because your whole business is around audience building, and we'll get into that side of the business at some point. But why do you think it is that I mean, you were at Callaway for a while before you came to Dude Perfect. Why do you think it is that brands are still trying to figure out this engagement marketing as a big mechanism for brand building?
Yeah. I mean, I think that used to be way more of a problem than it currently is, for sure.
100%.
It took a lot of brands a while to actually hop on the bandwagon of fully dedicating resources to their social strategy. And what I mean by that is, not like putting an intern on all of our social media. I mean, hiring a team, building out a strategy for each channel, talking to consumers in different ways on each channel because people consume content in different ways on every channel. Now it's kind of becoming everything is the same, but back then it was very differentiated. And so, really dedicating resources to building out those teams was something that, back when I first started Callaway 2012 ish, was something that not a ton of brands were doing. And then I think over the next five or 6 years, started to really catch on to the brands that were doing it well, the early adapters. People started seeing a lot of success with that and trying to kind of follow in those footsteps. And now, I think for most brands, it is somewhat of a priority at least. But I think part of that is like you have to be willing to give up a lot of control to do social the right way. I always think of like, Wendy's is a good example. They have such a unique perspective and personality on their social channels that differentiates them. And it's something that, you just can't do if you need to have like 5 layers of approval and legal approval on every post you put out. Because you have to be able to adapt and react quickly and have a personality and actually have a point of view. And if you don't, you're just another brand with a social account pushing your products. And no one wants to see that. And we really adapted that kind of mentality at Callaway too.
Yeah. So at some point along the way, you left Callaway and went to Dude Perfect. So I got to hear this, the story of how that happened. And B, like just the moment where you're like, and I know you weren't, the chief brand officer when you got to Dude Perfect, like you are today. But walk me through that process a little bit. And what was it like when you were like, holy crap, I'm going to be doing marketing for Dude Perfect? Like how many years in were they? Give me a little bit of that kind of inside story.
Yeah. So when I kind of, as my progression through the years at Callaway, I still ran all of our social and digital strategy, but also kind of started to do some brand partnerships things. Mm-hmm. And what that encompassed was anything from, signing Steph Curry to a, kind of a marketing ambassador. And so we're like, hey, we have Callaway sponsored Jamie Sadlowski, who's a long drive champion. He actually is a 2-time long drive champion. Just a freak athlete, hits it a mile. We're like, what if we got Jamie with the Dude Perfect guys to create a trick shots video, stunt video, and we'll use all of our new products and talk about the products as part of that, but just get these guys together and see what happens. And so we did a partnership with them in 2016, ended up doing another one in the next year. So that's how I got introduced to them. And, I managed that relationship for Callaway and really just kind of hit it off with them and had kept in touch over the next couple years, in particular with Cody, the tall guy, who would DM me on Instagram every now and then and be like, "Hey, I want to hire you. Come work for us. We need someone to do exactly what you're doing. We know your work." And
now, what is Cody responsible for? Because they're all responsible for different areas of the business. I forget which one.
They were. Now we're phasing them to where they can let go of those responsibilities and just focus on the content and the fun stuff. But Cody was the social media guy back then. Okay. It was kind of like an afterthought. It's like, I'll post something on my lunch hour, and he did a great job at it. He was perfect for it because he showed a lot of personality and stuff. But, and so, I had,
that's funny.
I had my
being stalked by Dude Perfect to come run their socials.
Yeah. And like at the time, like, I really wasn't that interested because I loved my job. I had my dream job, so I'd be like, hey man, like, I really appreciate that. Now it's not the time really for us, but we, just kind of laughed it off, kept in touch. And then in 2019, some things changed at Callaway. My boss and mentor, his name's Harry Arnett, he left to start his own company. Dynamics changed a lot. That plus we had just had our first kid, our first daughter, Ella May. And both of us were away from family and friends. When Ashley, my wife, and I moved to California, we knew 0 people, not a single soul. Tough. We made the drive, found an apartment the day we got there, and this is our new life. And it was incredible. And we really got to focus on ourselves, and we loved our time in California. But as you get older and things change a little bit, priorities change. You have kids, the idea of getting back. Ashley is actually from Allen, so close by here. So her family's around here. My family's just a couple hour drive away instead of a flight away. And that was a factor. And so it kind of felt like I was ready for a next step in my career as well. At Callaway, in the golf industry, it's very cyclical, new clubs every January. This driver helps you hit it 15 yards farther than last year. It's like kind of the same story that you're reading.
Yeah.
And so I felt at a point where I was proud of what I did. I felt like I was ready for a new challenge. Cody reached out again on Instagram just by chance during the
tell Cody to text me. I'll pick up his DMs.
Yeah. During this time where I'm having all this uncertainty and conversations with my wife about like what's our plan. And I was like, I actually would love to have that conversation now, Cody. And so we talked about it, and everything just lined up. It made sense.
Yeah.
We'll say I didn't truly understand the power of the Dude Perfect universe until I actually started and was in the building and saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
I knew they were massive, obviously knew they had a massive fan base, but it is incredible what they've been able to capture, and the fan base they've built and the loyalty and trust that they've built with families is so valuable. Yeah. So
let's talk about that. So you get in, and then, they've already exploded, but they're exploding more, right? We're doing live tours now, which, like I said, I've gone on one of the shows. They've got multiple different hit series at this point. What did you learn? So this is a nice segue from what you were saying. What did you learn about marketing differently in this environment? And they're a content and audience building business, right? Audience is their business. What did you learn differently about what you do as a marketer, being in a place like Dude Perfect, where you're selling people and audience and entertainment versus product where you were at prior?
Yeah, it was definitely a shift in mindset a little bit, going from, while as at Callaway, yes, we primarily we're selling products, like we're selling golf clubs. Everything is kind of lathers back to that. We're a brand, and, it was more of like, we're a premium technology brand, very expensive clubs. Everything is kind of more pristine and more like, beautiful photos and highly produced content. That was the world that I lived in for a long time. Was a majority of it was, we wanted it to be the best of the absolute best. And then kind of moving over to Dude Perfect, it's like, hey, you gotta, the idea is like, stay current, move fast, try things, like put a camera in our faces, like document everything. Like, this does not have to be the most pristine, photo ever. Like, just take a picture with your phone. And, like, it was a little bit of a shift in mindset from
Sure.
what I had been so trained to do and what like my instincts were, to, hey, now it's like, we're doing, something new every single day here. Everything moves fast. Like, just, kind of get up to speed and move faster. And so it was a kind of a little a shift there for sure.
Was that like, is there something though in that you're like, man, if I could have told myself back at Callaway some of these capabilities and so a different way of thinking, a different mindset, would you say there's something we could have done different? Or no, that was just that environment was just wholesale different?
I just think that they're very different brands that require a different level of accessibility. I don't know that. I mean, I think now brands are really humanizing themselves a lot more and doing more of this stuff, but we're a premium technology brand that sold expensive golf clubs. So we wanted to deliver content that stood above everyone else and was really impactful. And we were telling stories in the game of golf that in a very, unique way. It's just a different world than it is here, right? Like we're not a brand. We sell merch and we sell products, but like at the core, it's like, we're just documenting what we're doing, and we're, have brand partnerships on top of that, and content we're creating for brands. But it was more of just like the wild, wild west of like, hey, this is a run and gun atmosphere. This is not necessarily all the time. And sometimes it is. Sometimes there's more highly produced things that take more time and delivered in a certain package. But for the most part, it's like, hey, this is like a share what we're doing every day, engage with our fans, connect with our consumers. And it was just a total mind shift.
Yeah. There's something you said about the Callaway time. It definitely sounded like you were driving initiatives around storytelling, around lifestyle, about being relevant in the kind of the golfer's world. And so maybe this question doesn't hit as home considering that's kind of where you were, but I don't think a lot of people sit there. A lot of people sit in marketing seats, and it's about getting the thing out. It's getting product perfectly fit. I mean, you guys do brand partnerships, and you probably work with some people that are like have less creative control, and some that have total, want more creative control. So a lot of marketers from an everyday standpoint are trying to control. They're trying to put together something that's perfect. A lot of times it takes a long time to get that out the door, and then by the time it gets out the door, it's a version of what you kind of originally thought of. Yeah. I oftentimes talk about becoming a creator brand. And what I mean by a creator brand is operating almost like Dude Perfect would, or, some of, the buddies of Dude Perfect, right? Whether it be Mark Rober, like these guys are out there creating entertaining content, inviting people in to participate and building an audience on top of it. And so my thought process is, what can brands learn from a creator mindset? So maybe Callaway doesn't need to be as scrappy and as quick moving and as kind of run and gun as you are in Dude Perfect. But what does the creator kind of mindset, and how could that help brands think differently? Really, it's kind of the reason why we do this show, about how you are creating content that's entertaining and how are you building raving fans? Like, that's kind of the question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the number one thing for us, the most important thing is, working with creators to integrate the branded content in a very natural way. And something that we really prioritize any first conversation we have with a brand is, does it make sense for our audience? Do the dudes have an affinity for the brand? Those are kind of check boxes that we need to get past first. Because we want everything we do to feel natural, to feel like it's not coming out of left field, to feel like it's something that the dudes truly are passionate about, because it also makes the content better if they are passionate about it. And so that's kind of the first thing. And then, that conversation with brands in the beginning of like, hey, here's how we do it. Here's how we do brand integrations. We don't just do, 1 minute long ad reads. We get creative. The brand needs to be willing to, to give up a little bit of that like control or way that they probably have done things in the past of like, no, we need you to say this, 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 and this, and we need you to use all this industry jargon and stuff that consumers don't care about. And if you have the brands that are willing to say, hey, we get it, you guys do what you do and you're successful for a reason, you own the creative, we still own the creative, and we are able to bring those brand partners into the stories that we're already telling and the ideas we already have, because we know that that's going to work. We already know it's going to work. We've been doing this for 15 years. Trust us that this way of doing it is going to be better in the end for all of us. It's better for us, it's better for the people watching our videos, and it's better for the brand, because if you do it in a smart and creative way, you are, people aren't skipping forward 30 seconds and then 30 seconds because they know that the next minute is going to be an ad read. They're actually watching your ad because it's integrated into the content in a very strategic and creative way that's not so in your face. It's part of the creative concept we're doing. It's not just like a time block of ad read moments. It's, a couple lines here and then you cut back to the action and then a couple lines here, so that people feel like they can't skip forward because they're going to miss something that's happening in the video. And that's been a successful formula for us. And I've seen, even over the past year, a lot more brands being willing to do that. It didn't used to be the case. So, thankfully we're in a position where, like, if that's not the case, then, we're going to pass on the opportunity, because that's more important than, the check that the brand's going to write to us.
Let me come at that question just a little bit differently, because I think what you answered is how are you working with brands from a brand partnership standpoint, which is definitely kind of one of the questions I wanted to talk about. So that's really good. What I was trying to understand is, like, you're in and around these creators right now. They're creating at speed. They're entertaining first. I think a lot about like Savannah Bananas and what Jesse's group is doing out there to kind of change the way that people think about baseball. Yeah. How could someone that's inside of the editorial and creativeness of Dude Perfect sit down and tell a brand, hey, stop doing this, this, and this, and why aren't you operating like a creator and thinking like this, this, and this? Like, that's the kind of the thing that I'm wondering if that exists, or is that just creators and brands are so different, it's not really that comparable to try to learn things from a creator.
Yeah, I think the barrier there is that a lot of these big legacy brands who are so stuck in their way of doing something, that's in that corporate world, that's just the way things are. And that provides a lot of roadblocks to innovate. And so when you can remove those roadblocks by way of, having buy-in from the top down, that you're going to trust your team to execute and do what they do best. That's the most important thing, because you really have to have a brand who the senior leadership there is willing to stop doing things the way they always have done things, because that's just the way they've always done it, and to take more risks and to be more like a creator. And that is risky to a big, huge corporation. It is a risky thing to do, but oftentimes I find that the bottleneck there is from kind of that senior level where they're not willing to kind of take those risks. And so that's where, you have brands who, some of them have adopted that, and that's great. And those brands are, succeeding and doing a great job. And a lot of brands that just aren't willing to like let go of that or change out of those old habits,
So given that sometimes is hard for internal, I'm sure you get asked, I'm sure the dudes get asked from brands. And I know we're all out there kind of looking for things, but when people are talking to you about how can we be better on YouTube, obviously that's something you guys have mastered. You guys are looking at content. You're probably looking at retention graphs. You're understanding, did this segment work? Did this segment not work? Take us into like, how does a Dude Perfect group analyze content in a way that might actually help a brand think about how can we create great content rather than just things that are just interrupting?
Yeah. I mean, Tyler says it best when someone says, what advice would you have for someone who wants to be a YouTuber? He would say, number one, start 15 years ago. And so
great advice. Thanks, Ty.
Yeah. What he means by that is, it's not like you're going to blow up day one. There's a lot of a grind period before something finally clicks. You have that breakthrough, and you just have to keep putting out the content that you want, the content you believe in, trying new things, seeing what works and what doesn't. And you have to have that like dedication, and we are still learning how to do that, and how to, what are the algorithms pushing, those are ever changing. We are diving into the data like you wouldn't believe. And I think we're still improving and optimizing every single day. That never changes, because it's an ever evolving platform. These are ever evolving platforms, and the way people consume content on these platforms is also changing. So like YouTube, which used to, be the place, those like long form videos, now with the addition of shorts, they've pivoted to really prioritizing short form content. That's a huge platform wide shift that we have to adapt to and figure out what does a success from Dude Perfect look like in YouTube shorts, and have a strategy for that. And so I think part of it is analyzing the trends, what's happening, what's working, what are successful because there's more creators on YouTube now than ever. Like it is not saturated, but there's a lot. And so, a lot of people are doing great things. A lot of people are, we're constantly looking at those trends, seeing what's working for others, what's not. But at some point too, it's like there's a balance between, you want to stay true to yourself, and we want to stay true to what made us, what made people fans of Dude Perfect in the first place. We don't want to go completely by the data or completely by what other trends are happening or other creators are doing, because
you got to be originally Dude Perfect.
Yeah, we got to be ourselves. And so there's a lot of people who do just trace the title thumbnails and the, sensationalism kind of trend that's on YouTube, which I think is going to trend more back towards the old school YouTube days of storytelling, connecting with people, versus the super fast edits, fast cuts and edits, and crazy title and thumbnail kind of wave that's happening or has happened.
I've told people before that Mr. Beast ruined YouTube, right? Because he created a model that this is what YouTube is. Well, guess what? When cameras are $500 and mics are $200, you can have a light and you can get an editing team together for a few $1,000s. You're like, great, I'm just going to become Mr. Beast. And it just becomes thumbnail, fast cuts, crazy scenario, rather than original ideas, looking for unique insights, looking for things that we care about. And so when I watch
things that increase that connection with your audience too, that's the most important thing. Like, how do we really create that relationship with our audience to where, you know, they feel like they're the sixth member of Dude Perfect. And that's like another huge piece of it is, you know, we want to make sure we're not just like dumbing everything down because we want to check the YouTube algorithm box. We want to make sure we're still cultivating those relationships because that's the most important thing.
So how do you I don't know if you could bring me inside of an editorial, you know, creative session, but how do you continue to find and uncover those creative nuggets? Is it systems and processes, almost like SNL has created over the years, or is it more random? It's like, look, the personalities we have and the interactions that we have, we're just kind of always brainstorming.
Yes, that's exactly how it is. That's the hardest.
Well, that's nothing we can steal, Chad. I'm trying to find something we can steal.
Well, that's the hardest part of the job. Is 15 years in, the creative ideas. You know, we launch a video on YouTube every other Saturday at 9 a.m. That's every 2 weeks. You know, we have to put out something that is the quality of that, you know, people expect from Dude Perfect, and
a lot of pressure.
And that's in addition to everything else that we're doing. And so it's, you know, the from the creative side, it's like when you've been doing it for 15 years, it does get more challenging to figure out what are those new things we can do that breaks through. And so, you know, it's a lot of it. There's not a perfect system in place. We try to put systems in place, and some of those systems are great to have like as a baseline, but a lot of the magic comes with the off the cuff things. We have a room in here. We have 1,000 Post-it notes with any dumb idea or good idea or whatever it is that we've ever thought of that we thought maybe could be a nugget of an idea. And when we have these brainstorm meetings, we'll look through that and we'll say, you know, hey, what about, you know, this is a good idea, probably not as a standalone video, but like, what if we took that and we did it this way? Or what if we took that idea, but we took it to the next level by doing this? And so it's more just meant to be like thought starters that could help lead to a bigger idea. And, you know, I think one of the things that has helped make Dude Perfect successful is like, there's no egos at all in this building. Even with the dudes, any idea is a good idea. Anyone can have an idea. And, you know, there's that, it's not like one person has, you know, creative control and there's the power dynamic there. It's like, hey, we're in this together. Like any idea is a good idea. And it's a very, you know, it's a culture that invites that, which is really important as well.
Yeah, I love that it's like a content first culture. Yeah. And it also sounds like it's an egoless culture, which are sometimes hard to get in.
Oh, extremely
corporate.
It's like impossible to get.
Yeah.
You know, thankfully we're a small enough team, I think, to where it makes it possible if you find the right people.
Now, one other new thing that I've noticed, you mentioned YouTube Shorts. I feel like, and I don't know if this is new, but I feel like over the past, I don't know, year or so, I've started to see more promotion of the content, right? So yes, we've got a video that's coming out, but it's like, hey, the countdown, hey, 3 days out, hey, this is upcoming, or little snippets of like behind the scenes of the actual, you know, video that's coming out is kind of, and by the way, I love it. My kids love it. But it's like this deeper level of fandom, right? Which is what I really like. It's like pulling the curtain, pulling people more into the experience. They've got the full blooper videos, or maybe don't call them blooper videos, but behind the scenes videos. But well, just
I was going to ask if you were on the app.
I am on the app, of course.
Good.
Come on, Chad. You know, I'm a fan. I'm in.
Behind the scenes, that's the only place we put them. So
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask is, and I think this is good for marketers to hear. A lot of times you put out the content, but you forget about promoting the content, but still promoting it as content. So it's not like an ad. Like y'all do fun little things to promote actually speaking of the app. When the app came out, y'all had some fun little things that y'all did, and they weren't ads. They were ads, but y'all always put a little creative spin on it. It seems like there's an effort to market the content with the channels that you guys kind of own and operate. So maybe tell me about how you kind of came to that and how that's performing.
Yeah, I think one aspect is, you know, every video we release on YouTube, like I just hit on, we're so proud of it. It's, you know, a lot of times they're like mini movies. You know, a lot of time and effort goes into it, from concept to go build all the props and things we need, to film it, source locations, scout extras, all that stuff, and then edit it in post, make it really good, and check all the boxes, and then it's release date. So, you know, part of it is like we want to build up to these video launches as big moments so that it's appointment viewing, which it naturally kind of is, because we have decided to keep on that same 2-week schedule since the beginning. So our fans know when a new video is going to drop. And then separately on the app side, So we released the Dude Perfect app and streaming service in October. It's available on, all mobile, iPad, and then also on TV. So you can download it on your TV just like you would, Netflix or whatever. And it's a safe place where, the number one thing that we say when we go on tour or whatever is parents always say, thank you for creating content I can let my kids watch without having to worry about anything. I can walk away and I know that they're going to be, they're not going to see anything inappropriate. Like I trust that. And we've built that trust for 15 years and it's very valuable to us. What you can't control on YouTube is the next suggested video or the ads that play, and you never know what kind of rabbit hole that'll lead to. So we created the Dude Perfect app. We have our content on there. We have we're going to add some other like Dude Perfect approved creators that are family friendly that'll license their content on our app. So it's a completely safe space. All of our content lives there. We have a lot of unique content, like behind the scenes edit for every YouTube video we do goes exclusively on the app. And so, giving people a reason not only to use our app as the way to consume Dude Perfect content right now, but also like family friendly creators hub is what it'll eventually kind of be. And not only to do that, but also you get unique and exclusive content. You get bonus footage. You get more access to the dudes. We're working on a lot more bells and whistles on being able to like do like live voting and cool not cool, and have some interactive elements to it as well. And that everything's going to be safe. The ads are going to be kid friendly, and it's a very controlled environment. And so, that's kind of like another reason for building these kind of promotional and hype videos for our content is we have YouTube, which is still cranking. That won't ever change. That's still our primary objective. But then also like, hey, we want to, for a lot of people to kind of migrate over to the app or use the app as well as YouTube if they just want to see the exclusive content and stuff on there. So all of that kind of is holistically to kind of drive attention to those two things.
All right, a couple of lightning round, quick ones here, and we'll have some fun with them. So first and foremost, your favorite Dude Perfect video?
All Sports Golf at Augusta National.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Still can't.
I say it's a good one to watch. I'm sure you mean it for you were there.
That one took 10 years off my life. All the approvals so cool. And all the like waiting and like the uncertainty. I mean, I'm still shocked that was ever allowed.
Favorite series. So there's a few different series. What's your favorite series to watch?
I like Stereotypes. I just think they're so funny. And it's funny. Sometimes, I'll be in a Stereotypes video for like a scene if they need an extra.
I was going to ask you if you've been in any. I feel like you have.
Yeah. It's that's how I know that there's a true fan is if they recognize me on the street.
Yeah.
It's happened a handful of times. I'm like, if you recognize me enough to be like, oh, that's Chad, Dude Perfect.
If the editors walked around Orlando, my kids would be like finding out where they were at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my favorite episode is probably, I'm a Mavs fan, so it's probably Luka. Having Luka there was so cool.
The world's best basketball shot is up there too.
Yeah, but that was different. I mean, y'all did that like a documentary. It was so bad to the bone the way y'all did that.
Exactly.
That wasn't fair to compare it against other things, I don't think. I can't imagine if y'all wouldn't have gotten that, but that's a whole other fan topic. We won't do that here.
I could go on.
And then
we shouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah, my favorite series are probably, I don't know if you could call this a series, but it's the airsoft battles.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Those are especially in the snow. Those are so good.
We're looking at doing our next one with the Navy SEALs. So we have some.
Oh, dude, that's so good.
It'd be like Navy SEALs trying to protect their base and the dudes trying to go in, and it's insane concept. I can't wait for that one.
All right, if you weren't doing what you're doing for Dude Perfect, where would you be doing this at? Not that you're looking to leave, but like, what are the things that you're? And I guess you've already done it. You've done kind of golf. So, but maybe there's another answer other than Callaway. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, like, I don't really know because I really enjoy like this culture, this environment of like the not like typical, corporate culture. And so while I think I would love to do what I'm doing at any like, professional sports capacity or with, league or
different.
NFL, it's just different. And it's not really as appealing to me because it's like you're back in a corporate structure and everything that comes along with that. Not that it's can't be great sometimes, but I love we're a small and lean team here. A lot of self-starters, and it's a really fun culture and environment that It makes me think like, there's a lot I think that's broken in traditional corporate culture, which is a whole nother conversation. But
I'll start that podcast and we'll do that again another time, because I'm with you. So on that, part of building Maverick was breaking away from corporates. That's literally part of my story. And but also part of what we want to do. We want to help people create content that's disruptive, it's different. So we're trying out a new question. So you're the first one to do it. What makes Chad Coleman a Maverick?
Interesting. I think really there's a lot of things I try to facilitate with my team here, and I'm constantly learning, every day more and more about what makes, a good leader, what makes, leading it, makes you successful at leading a team and cultivating talent, which I'm very passionate about. And I think, prioritizing very clear communication, no idea is a bad idea, no egos, really creating, a way where you have this environment that people want to flourish in, and they feel like if they, here's their day job, but hey, if you're passionate about something else in the business, like go do that. If you're a huge gamer and you think we should have a Dude Perfect gaming wing, go put together a plan for that, go pitch it, go do it. And having that, as I've seen through like my experience at corporate culture and things that hold people back and hold companies back, is just, it's dumb stuff. Usually it's old school way of thinking and not trying new things. And I really prioritize that in our team here. Is like, I want you to succeed. I want you to have fun. I want your work-life balance to be great. And I want you to be a happy employee. So I want, to facilitate all of those things. And, I think that's like really key to me, and something that, when you build a team that's responsible for as much as we are at Dude Perfect. I mean, we're 23 people total, including the 5 dudes, which, we'll start ramping that up this year as we attack some bigger verticals, for the business. But, you're don't have anyone really looking down your shoulder at all times. You have to be a self-starter, and you have to, do your job. And that's just the environment that we live in. And I think, cultivating that culture and relationship to where everyone's working together, there's no egos, you're having fun, you create this really unique dynamic that is invaluable to helping us stay quick, stay nimble, think of innovative ideas, try new things. All of that stuff wouldn't happen if you didn't have that sort of a dynamic at the foundation of your company. And that's like one of the most important things to me. So, that all goes back to kind of the no ego thing and helping, just facilitate that kind of environment.
Well, man, I super appreciate the time. I will echo what many people have told you guys before. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old who loves Dude Perfect. As a man of faith and knowing kind of what the background for Dude Perfect kind of stands for, it just means a lot to me that you guys are out there. And I wish that,
appreciate that.
I hope that what y'all do births really a whole new level of like, modern faith first, faith seeking content genres in entertainment, because we need it. I think so, there's so many good things that are happening out there, but you guys are unique. And it's really easy to say you're a YouTube channel creating entertaining content, but there's so much more than that. When I got to see Ty do his testimony after the Savannah show, and I know they're doing that, and I've watched all of his things, and not to make this about this, but it's a part of my story. It's part of my family's story.
Big part of
and to see that. Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
I was just saying it's a big part of our story too. Yeah.
So I just appreciate it, and I know that you guys are going to continue to do great work. Other than promoting, go watch Dude Perfect, download the app. You can find Chad Coleman on Twitter. I don't know how active he is, but he's out there. Anything else to promote for yourself?
No, I can give a quick teaser of a couple things we have coming out. We have a 30 for 30.
All right, do it.
There's ESPN did a 30 for 30 on Dude Perfect that we're really excited about.
That's cool.
Filmed it for about a year and a half, and it's going to be premiered in April. And then we're going to announce soon that we're going on a international tour this year instead of the U.S. Taking a year off from the U.S. and going
only international.
Yeah, only international. Yep.
Wow.
So yeah.
All right. Well, Americans are crying, but that's okay. We're going to spread the fandom. This is like a super bucket list, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, cool, Chad. Well, I super appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Thanks for staying a little bit late. But this is Radical Content. You can find us on all of our socials. We're so happy that you're here. Make sure you like and subscribe so we can keep creating more content like this. And yeah, go follow Chad and give him a shout out from Radical Content. But thanks everybody. We'll talk to you soon.